Good morning, everyone. Myself, Kausar Momin, 10th Standard, Subject Science 1, Chapter number 8, Metallurgy. In last lecture, in this chapter, we discussed up to reaction of metals with nitric acid. Today, we are going to discuss about, as I said to you, whatever the cancellation part is there, that I'll tell you during this lecture itself. So here, just try this experiment. No need to do this. This will come 25% reduced syllabus, so don't do this. Next topic is reactivity series of metals. We have seen that reactivity of all metals is not the obviously we have seen whenever the reaction is with the metal, so somewhere we are getting oxide, somewhere we are getting some gas is produced over there. So definitely that reactivity is not same for all metals, right? However, the reagent oxygen, water and acids are not useful to determine the relative reactivities of all the metals, as all the metals do not react with them. Definitely we have seen these things also, that all the metals are not react with the only oxygen, water or the displacement reaction of metals with solutions of salts of other metals serves this purpose. If a metal A displaces another metal B from the solution of its salt, then it means that the metal A is more reactive than the metal B. This will clear with the another paragraph. You will clear this thing over here very nicely. Metal A plus salt solution of metal B means whatever metal B is there, that solution is there, and in that solution we are adding metal A. So after reaction between these two, what we are getting? So salt solution of metal A and metal B is going to get separated out. This is the part of whenever two things are going to gets react with each other, that time the whatever reaction is happening, that you are getting in this way. As we discuss the activities, we have seen that iron has displaced copper from copper sulfate. So we have taken copper sulfate solution and we are added in iron, so it gets displaced from copper sulfate solution. That means we can say metallic iron is more reactive than metallic copper, because it is getting displaced as compared to the copper sulfate. So we can say easily that metallic iron is more reactive than the metallic copper. So scientists had discussed all these things and they have decided which one is having more reactive and which one is having lower reactive. Based on that, they made one graph, and through this we can consider easily which one is having maximum reactivity and which one is having lower reactivity. So here is the theory part of the same. Scientists have developed the reactivity series by doing many experiments of displacement reaction. The arrangement of metals in the increasing or decreasing order of reactivity is called the reactivity series of metals. What is the definition for reactivity series of metals? So we can say that the arrangement of metals in the increasing or decreasing order of reactivity is called reactivity series of metal. Whenever the reaction is happening, so over there we have to arrange the metal either increasing or decreasing order due to the reaction. So this process is called as reactivity series of metals. Metals are divided into the following groups according to the reactivity. One is highly reactive metals, moderately reactive metals and less reactive metals. So here is the graph for the same. This graph is for reactivity series of metals. You can observe here that potassium, sodium, lithium, calcium. These four are having another range. Now magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, tin, lead. These four are having another range. Next copper, mercury, silver. These three are having another range. And next is gold, which is having another range. And the range is, we can say, for this four, these four are react with water very easily, right? Now next, all these things are react with the acids, and with that this also react with the acid. We can say easily that this one is react with water, this one is react with, all these things are react with acids as well as water, because this range you can observe here, right? Now next is, these three are react with oxygen. Next, this gold is having lower reactivity. There is range based on that, lower to higher. You can observe here, this is the reactivity range, how much they are going to react with these acid, oxygen and water. So gold is lower range, like it is almost not react with the another one. Minute range of reactivity is there, we can say that. Now next, it is going to get in this way, increasing order as compared to gold. Copper, mercury, silver is little bit react with as compared to gold, and this one is much more reactivity, and this is too much react with these things. Clear? So this is the graph, or you can say the diagram of reactivity series of metals. All these are metals, their reaction, whatever reactions are happening with it, their reactivity range, either whether it is react with oxygen, acids or water or not. So this range is there. Next topic is reaction of metals with non-metals. Obviously here we have to consider metal as well as non-metal, and between them whatever reaction is happening, that we have to see. Noble gases like helium, neon, argon, these do not take part in the chemical reactions. So far we have seen from the reactions of metals that cations are formed by oxidation of metals. If we look into the electronic configuration of some metals and non-metals, it will be seen that the driving force behind a reaction is attained the electronic configuration of the nearest noble gas with complete octet. So if we are saying over here that noble gases do not take part with the chemical reaction, but actually whenever we are going to discuss about their electronic configuration, at that time, suppose NaCl you are considering, for the NaCl, this is the reaction. Here it is metal, which is sodium, and here it is non-metal, which is chlorine. So whenever due to the after the reaction, we are getting ionic compound, which is NaCl. What is the meaning of ionic compound? Ionic compound means over here cation and anion get attracts each other and they get cancelled with each out, and we are saying it as ionic compound. Metals do this by losing electrons, while non-metals do this by gaining electrons. Means due to this reaction, you can observe here this statement, metals do this losing electrons while non-metals do this gaining electrons. Suppose sodium, what is the atomic number for sodium? 11. What is the atomic number for chlorine? 17. What is the electronic configuration for sodium? That is 281. What is the atomic configuration, electronic configuration for chlorine? That is 287. Okay. Now please concentrate over here. 281 is for sodium and 287 for chlorine. So here for sodium I am writing again, for Na is 2 281 is the electronic configuration. For chlorine it is 287. This is the electronic configuration for chlorine. Now you can observe this statement: metals do this losing electrons while non-metals do this gaining electrons. Due to complete this octet, this sodium is giving 1 electron to chlorine, and chlorine needs 1 more electron to complete its octet. Here 7 electrons are there, so chlorine needs 1 more electron. So this sodium 1 electron is giving, and this chlorine is accepting 1 electron, and chlorine is non-metal and sodium is metal. So hence we can say metals do this reaction with the completing losing their electrons. That means sodium has given 1 electron to chlorine to complete its octet, right? So that we can say losing electrons by sodium means no metal, and gaining by electrons to non-metals. Obviously chlorine is accepting 1 electron to complete its octet, right? So hence this is the statement for the same, for this reaction. This reaction is matches with this one. Okay, the outermost shell of noble gases being complete, they are chemically inert. Means that is, they are chemically directly inert in it, like they involved in it. You have seen in the last standard that the ionic compound sodium chloride is formed as sodium metal gives away 1 electron while the non-metal chlorine takes up 1 electron, which we discussed over here also. So we can say over here that sodium chlorine, 1 electron is losing by sodium and 1 electron is accepting by chlorine. Hence we are getting ionic compound. So Na plus and Cl minus is going to get each other, and cation and anion gets attract each other and they cancel each other, and we are getting ionic compound. Ionic compound means there is no charge. So similarly we can do the same reaction for magnesium, potassium. When you are doing with the magnesium, so you will get magnesium chloride, and when you are doing with potassium, then you will get potassium chloride. Okay, do this reaction. This is the part of your homework. Do this reaction. Now next, this chemical properties of non-metals, we have to cancel these things. No need to discuss this one. This is coming with 25% of reduced syllabus, so don't discuss, don't study this one. Let's go ahead. This 2, 3, 4, all these things no need to discuss. Okay, now next, our next topic is ionic compounds. Ionic compound means, as I said to you, when NaCl forms, that is ionic compounds, which is the combination of cation and anion, and they cancel the charges with each other, and that is why ionic compound is making. The same thing is explanation for the same is over here. Please concentrate over here. I am reading this part. The compounds formed from 2 units, namely cation and anion, are called ionic compounds. The cation and anion being oppositely charged. Obviously one is plus and another one is minus. There is an electrostatic force of attraction between them. Obviously positive gets attract to negative. They attract with each other. So that's why electrostatic force between them. You know that this force of attraction between cation and anion is called ionic bond. So that attraction we are saying it as bond, ionic bond. The number of cation and anion in a compound and magnitude of the electric charge on them is such that positive and negative charges balance each other. They balance each other. As a result, ionic compound is electrically neutral. Neutral means these charges balance with each other. Hence, after getting compound, there is no charge. It is null. So we can say it as neutral. Okay. Ionic compounds are crystalline in nature. the surface of all the particles of a crystalline substance have a definite shape. That means whatever particles present in a crystalline, that has a definite shape and they are smooth and shiny. The regular arrangement of ions in the solid ionic compounds is responsible for their crystalline nature. Like whatever shape presents in these particles, they are responsible for the crystalline nature. Like whatever shiny things are there. So that is because of their shape. The arrangement of ions is different in different ionic compounds and therefore the shapes of their crystal are different. The main factor that determines the general arrangement of ions in a crystal is the attractive force between oppositely charged ions and the repulsive force between similarly charged ions. Obviously, attraction and repulsion is there between their charges. Attraction means positive, negative, and whenever like something are there, positive and positive particles are there, so that is repulsion. Due to this, the shiny particles we are going to observe over there, right? Because of this, general crystalline structure has negative ion arranged around a positive ion and positive ions arranged around a negative. That comes in a attraction. Two of the important factors responsible for a certain crystal structure as follows, and that are: 1. Size of the positively and negatively charged ions. 2. Magnitude of the electrical charge on the ions. These two factors are responsible for a crystal structure. The electrostatic attraction in the neighboring ions with opposite charges is very strong. Why? Obviously, very easy answer. Because if they are oppositely charged, that is why their attraction is too much strong. They try to attract each other again and again, hence the attraction between them is strong. So that is why melting point of ionic compounds are high. Means if you want to break this two, then we have to melt this. So we have to give a lot of temperature to this one. So that is why its melting point is too high. Also, the ionic compounds are hard and brittle. Obviously, we know that. Next topic is properties of ionic compounds. To understand these properties of ionic compounds, we will perform one activity. Through this, we can understand very easily. We are not going to perform actually of this experiment. Just imagine this thing in your mind. Okay. So for the same, we are taking apparatus as metal spatula, burner, carbon electrodes, beaker, cell, lamp, press key, electrical wires, etc. Now, chemicals compounds are sample of sodium chloride, potassium iodide and barium chloride, water. So procedure is: observe the above samples. Place sample one of the above salts on the spatula and heat it on flame of the burner. Repeat this procedure using other salts. Like what we have to do over here, we have to take one sample amongst all three, and with the help of this burner we have to heat that one by one. We have to do the same thing. Next is assemble an electrolytic cell by using a beaker and connecting the carbon electrodes to the positive and negative terminal of the cell. Dip the electrodes in the solution of any one of the salts. Do you see the lamp is glowing? Obviously yes. Why? I'll tell you. So here is the diagram. You can observe in this diagram of that arrangement. See, these are the electrodes. This one is a salt solution, any kind of salt. So one bulb is attached over here. This is electrolytic cell, beaker, graphic rod, means graphite rod means which is the electrodes we are saying, and this is salt solution. What we have to see over here to check connectivity of the salt solution, conductivity of the salt solution. So what is behind to perform this experiment, what kind of reason is there? If you will consider a salt solution, if you consider a salt, a single salt, and with that if you will connect this battery on electrolytic cell, then this bulb will not glow. And when you will consider this salt solution, when you will add this salt to the water, and you will get the salt solution, and at that time this bulb will glow. So reason is that if it is aqueous solution, then the current is passes through this, so we can say that electrons can flow through this solution, and whenever the electrons are flowing through this solution, that means bulb will glow, that lamp will glow. So here are the properties of the same general properties of ionic compounds. Based on whatever we have seen this experiment, based on this experiment, few properties are there. First property is the attractive force between the positive and negatively charged ions is strong. Therefore, ionic compound exists in solid state and hard. Second is the ionic compounds are brittle and can be broken into pieces by applying pressure. Obviously, if it is hard and brittle, so if you will apply pressure, then it can broken with the pieces. Next is the intermolecular force of attraction is high in ionic compounds, obviously because of cation and anion. Large energy is required to overcome it. Therefore, the melting and boiling point of ionic compounds are high. Obviously, the attraction forces between them is very high, and due to that is the compound is very hard. So whatever melting and boiling point you need, that is also high. Now next is fourth property. Ionic compounds are water soluble. Obviously here as you have seen, this is because the water molecules orient in a particular manner around the ions, separate by dissociation process. As a result of this, new force of attraction is established between the ion, the surrounding water molecules, replacing the original intermolecular attraction. And aqueous solution of ionic compounds are formed. Ionic compounds are, however, insoluble in solvents like kerosene and petrol. Obviously, this ionic compound soluble in water or any another kind of solution, but it is insoluble in kerosene and petrol. In the kerosene and petrol, it will not dissolve. Okay. This is because unlike water, new attractive force can be established in the solvent. So that is why we are using all the time water everywhere. Now next fifth property is the ionic compounds cannot conduct electricity when in solid state. That I'll show you that in the diagram. When it is solid state, it will not conduct electricity, but obviously if it is aqueous solution, then electricity pass through this. In this state, the ions can leave their places. However, in the fused or molten state, they can conduct electricity, as in the state of ions are mobile. The aqueous solution of ionic compounds conduct electricity as they contain the dissociate ions. On passing current through the solution, the ion move to the oppositely charged electrodes. Due to the electrical conductivity in fused and dissolved state, ionic compounds are called as electrolytes, because the electrons carried out through the electrodes and they are going to attract with positrons. So that is why we are calling it as electrolytes. So here are in this table you can observe that few melting points are given for ionic compounds, and here the compound, for suppose if water, then it is non-ionic obviously, and its melting point water is there, that means 0. at 0 temperature it starts to melt. Boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius. Now ZnCl2 means zinc chloride, which is ionic compound. Its melting point is 290 and boiling point is 732. Now next is magnesium chloride, which is also ionic compound. Its melting point is 714 and boiling point is 1412. Now sodium chloride, it is also ionic compound. Its melting point is 801 and boiling point is 1465. Now sodium bromide, it is also ionic compound. 747 is melting point, 1390 is boiling point. Potassium chloride, it is ionic compound. Melting point is 772 and boiling point is 1407. Magnesium monoxide is ionic. Its melting point is very high, that is 2052, and its boiling point is 3600. So this table gives us melting point and boiling point of the ionic compounds. Today we will stop over here. Your homework is you have to write properties of ionic compounds, very important part. And next is draw this diagram, not diagram exactly, this table. Write down their ionic form, non-ionic, melting point and boiling point. Thank you.